thanks, Len, for coming in today. I know that it's probably been a reasonably good year, I think. A good season.
Fabulous year. In the corridor, I was saying winning a Grey Cup is like you earning your diploma. You work hard towards it. A lot of things behind the scenes, day and night, but when it culminates in that championship, there's no better feeling in pro sports.
So maybe walk us through what it felt like, as somebody that's trying to attain that pinnacle, and what it felt like when you got there.
Oh, when you got there, it's because it's so difficult to get there. First, just being in the Grey Cup final and knowing that we were going to Winnipeg against Ottawa is a phenomenal feeling. But I can tell you what you don't want. You don't want to go to the Grey Cup final and lose, because if you come back and you lose after making it to that game, you have the whole off season to think about it. Right. So winning is the only way to do it. But the other team has the same objectives, and we didn't start off too fast. We were down by many points to start the game. But we knew our guys, if they could get their things in order, they weren't going to panic. And it's the top 5 things in my life that I've experienced, and anything is winning the Grey Cup. That feeling was incredible. A lot of emotion, a lot of adrenaline, and a lot of hugging.
Right, yeah. So what now, so how do you top that?
That's what everyone asks. You want to maintain momentum, and we spent the last 4.5 years trying to build a contender. We felt that we weren't giving our fans their money's worth in terms. I can't promise we're going to win a Grey Cup every year, because every team wants to do that. Right. But what we need to do is to show you that we're going to have a team that competes. And for us, product is king. Our product is what fans buy tickets for us, to see the guys play in the field. Right. And we're going to try to be competitive again and give it the best. Someone's got to take it away from us, because right now it's our cup. And when I say our cup, it's Edmonton's cup, it's Northern Alberta's cup, it's the cup for all the fans that are Eskimo fans across the country.
Right. So if I understand the Eskimo model, it's a kind of like a community-based organization. How does that differ from maybe some of the other sports models that are around the world, where you have private ownership and individual zoning? What does it mean? We talk about stakeholders in this course. So how do you engage stakeholders in terms of the city and various groups?
It's a great question, because we are unique, Gordon. It's we're a not-for-profit, so in the Alberta Charter, we're a Part 9 company, the way we're structured. Although I don't like to use the term not-for-profit, because it gives sometimes the impression that we're a country club and we don't have to worry about objectives and performance. It's the opposite. But not-for-profit means, is the way we're set up, is we don't have individual owners where the profits at the end of the year go into their pockets. It's actually, we can make profits at the end of the year, but it goes right back into the operations of the football club. We're a tenant at Commonwealth Stadium. The city owns the stadium, we own the team. We put things like Wi-Fi last year, where we spent $2.1 million to get young demos into the stadium. We did that, and we didn't have to technically, according to our lease, and we put it back into the community. It's extremely unique. There are 3 teams in the CFL that are community-owned: the Eskimos, the Rough Riders in Saskatchewan, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. In the NFL, south of the border, you have the Green Bay Packers, and it's really different as a model. So when you talk about stakeholders, when I took the job in 2011, a wise elderly shareholder came to me and he says, "You're going to serve many masters." And it's absolutely true, because when it's your team, there's 800,000 people that could have different opinions on a different day, which is great, because that shows there's engagement. Right. But technically, I head management, business and football. The GM reports to me, the business VPs report to me. I report to a board of directors. They're volunteers. It's a governance board to make sure that I'm staying on track with what I say I'll do, that we do everything with integrity. And they, in turn, officially report to a group of shareholders, 85 members, that represent the community. And to go to the end, because it's really, sometimes people say, well, how does this really work? The mayor has even asked me, Don Iveson. Well, I said, okay, Mayor, if ever we were to dissolve the club, all our monies would go back to charities in the city of Edmonton. So no one is motivated to make money through the Edmonton Eskimos. It goes right back into the heart and soul of this community.
Good. And now your background, so maybe we can talk about how you got to where you are today. And your background, you went through marketing, I think,
That's
as
right.
an undergrad,
Yes.
and then
Yeah. That's right.
you had some experience in terms of marketing of sporting goods,
Correct.
Reebok, and some things. Maybe just share a little bit about
Sure.
your how you started
Sure.
and how your career progressed.
So was raised in Montreal. I went to Concordia University, the other Concordia University, not the one down the road, but so I was part of the John Molson School of Business in Montreal. Yes, my major was marketing. The moment I got into school, I realized I just loved everything about marketing, especially the consumer side, because what people are willing to purchase is based on how well you engage with them, and there's so many variables at play. It's not a science, and it allows creativity, but strategy is important. I will warn you, though, you say, oh, well, that was many moons ago. Yeah, because I graduated in '87. You will blink, and you will be at this stage. Once you hit this part of your life, it accelerates so fast, so enjoy every moment of it. Work hard, play hard. My first job, it was in sales with Heinz Food, so we were selling consumer products. Did that for a year and then entered the beer business and moved to Toronto to the head office of Molson and worked on brand management, strategies, new brands, relaunching existing brands. Did that for 11 years and then ended up at CCM Hockey. CCM Hockey is a brand that exists since 1899, a lot of history. And I love brands that have a long history but need to be repositioned. We were acquired by Reebok when I was there, and the first thing they asked us to do was launch Reebok Hockey. And then we launched Reebok Hockey and became #2 worldwide overnight, and I was running the global operations for Reebok-CCM Hockey at our headquarters in Montreal, but overseeing 1,000 people. We had offices in Russia, Sweden, Finland, the US, Canada, and manufacturing plants in Canada and then overseas in Asia. And then Reebok got acquired by Adidas, so CCM was part of the Adidas group, which now owns Rockport. Well, they just sold Rockport. They had Rockport. They have TaylorMade. They have Reebok. They have CCM. Yeah. And after doing that for 11 years, I said, well, I didn't say after the acquisition, Adidas decided to put some of their own people from Europe into my seat. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't in control of my own career. And you say, boy, that can be frightening. Yeah. Sure can, the older you get. But I said, this can be a great opportunity. So I had 3 opportunities at the same time, and the one I really embraced was the Edmonton Eskimos. Yeah. So I moved to Edmonton from Montreal, and I've been here since 2011. I love Edmonton. The people of Edmonton are the best, and it's the right city for me in my life. I have a daughter your age, 25 years old, lives in Montreal. She just finished her studies. And actually, she ends up working at Reebok-CCM in marketing and PR. Oh. Yeah.
So talk to me about when you're making that decision, you're working for a company, you've got certain metrics that you're looking at. How much of a change? What did you feel in taking the new position? What were some of your thoughts in terms of you're in a related industry, but instead of just the products that are used, you're actually looking at talent and you're looking at entertainment.
So true. Yeah. I'm not an expert on football. The football operations side I'm an expert at putting people in the right position. So our general manager, Ed Hervey, is someone that I put in his seat a year after I came. I made a change. We used to have Eric Tillman. Made a change there. He in turn chooses the coaching staff. But when I was at Reebok-CCM, I never played hockey at an elite level, and there's people that do that and do that very well. My role is to be strategic, know enough about everything and not be the expert at anything, but it's putting resources in the right place, the right talent, skill sets, so that everyone complements one another, and it's my duty to provide a vision and a direction. We talk about 5-year plans. I know you study case studies. It's true. We have 5-year plans. Pro forma financials tied to strategy, and there's nothing more thrilling than, for me, in my life and career, is to come in when things aren't always at their peak, try to come in and bring it back to another level, and once I do that, then I look for something else. My mantra, my guiding principle, is I don't want to go to competitors. So when I was at Heinz, I didn't want to go to Kraft. When I was at Reebok, I hated Nike. It's just a competitor. I always hate my competition respectfully. When I say I hate them, it's because of the passion I have for who I represent. And with the Eskimos, I can guarantee you I will never go work for the Calgary Stampeders. Okay. Never say never, because we all have to earn an income, but that's my guiding principle. There's enough out there to do, and I'll do this as long as it keeps it going. But in my interviews in 2011 with the hiring committee, I met a group of people that talked about doing the right things. They didn't talk about just the bottom line. When I was in the Adidas group, whatever they said at the end of the day was about delivering 10% profit contribution. Mm-hmm. And Germany wasn't on your back, their head office, if you delivered that, and if you didn't, they were on your back. But the Eskimos, it's this is not theory, this is true. They said we need to do the right thing, we need to talk about sustainability. Mm-hmm. Whenever you leave this organization, leave it in better shape than when you took it. And we got to do the right thing. What does the right thing mean? So we put a strategy together, and there's 3 key pillars. Football, which is product on the field, making sure it's performance, performance, performance. The second one is the game day experience, where we host games 10 times a year and 11 times if we host a playoff game. Mm-hmm. And the third one is community engagement. Not many companies have that as part of their strategy. The Edmonton Eskimos, I put it right in the strategy of a pillar, a triangle, football operations, game day experience, and the community. And right in the bullseye of that is the fan. The fan who buys tickets, because at the end of the day, we're a gate-driven league. Our number one source of revenue, people who buy tickets when it comes to the Canadian Football League.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the community engagement piece, do you lead by example? Like, what are some of the things that you're involved with? Some organizations outside of the Eskimos in the community. Yes. So what type of? I think Dogs with Wings is one I know that you're engaged with. And what are some of the other ones? And how do you set that example for other people within the team to not just to tell them to do it, but to actually do it?
I do try to lead by example, but I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. Any given day I can make the same errors that everyone else makes, but we got to learn from it. But I have, when I came to Edmonton, signed up for the Eskimos, I knew it was more than a job. It's got to be part of my lifestyle. So since I've been here on a typical year, I do factually 100 public events a year, including something like this. My pet projects include ending domestic violence. I grew up in an environment where there was domestic violence, and I'm 52 years old, and last year, finally I came and opened my story publicly to a man named Chris O'Leary in the Edmonton Journal, and I should have done it many years ago. So that's really important to me, and I want to make sure that by telling a story, and yesterday Cam Tate covered it in his newspaper, by telling my story, if people are impacted by that, I want them to know they're not alone. There's more services than ever, and they can do things to get the help. The other area that I love is animal welfare. Right. So pets, on 2 sides, we do Pets in the Park with the Humane Society, where I'm the marshal of the walk, going on year 3 now. And we've raised money, and I really love what the Humane Society does. And Dogs with Wings. So Dogs with Wings is a service dog society to help disabled people. So they train service dogs. So what do I get involved in? Well, my girlfriend and I, we fostered 2 of those service dogs while they're being trained. We are not the trainers, but we take them home. It's like dropping your kid off at daycare. You drop the dog off in the morning, pick it up at night, and at night and on weekends, you take the dog everywhere along with you. And in Alberta, the dog has legal rights. It can go into a restaurant. If I was here and I had the dog would be right here, and it's a remarkable thing.
So, in terms of that, just the exposure that somebody in your position can give to the cause when they see you actually with the dogs, and you've got the story to tell about why you're doing what you're doing, and some of the impacts in that. I know our students a couple of years ago actually supported Dogs with Wings with some of their profits from Mission Possible.
Fabulous.
So we have a bit of a connection that way, and it's nice to see that we some of the things that our students find important are kind of recognized in the community. And I know we have other people. I think in addition to yourself, Dave Mowat
That's right.
has
Correct.
had one of the dogs.
Yeah.
And to see them in their day-to-day lives, and it really does present that opportunity to be somebody that teaches people about the needs of society and some of the ways that we can meet them.
You're right, Gordon. Dave Mowat tapped me on the shoulder. We were at a charity event one day, and he says, I'm getting involved. You guys got me excited about this whole thing, and he ended up getting involved and did a great thing. He fostered Vaughn, and Vaughn was doing even radio commercials with them. Incredible.
Yeah.
And Vaughn was a puppy. But in life, to lead into what you say, whatever opportunity or vehicle is given to you, maximize it.
Yeah.
If you respect yourself, maximize your potential, whatever that potential is. And the Eskimos opportunity in my career has given me this ability to do something I never did in corporate life before. Mm-hmm. It was 99% focused on my day-to-day, 1% community, and now it's almost a equal balance because that is what we're about. And when I go to bed at night, yes, love the fact that we won the Grey Cup, but when I look at myself in the mirror and I say, okay, I can make this world a better place literally because of our players, our staff, our cheer team, the alumni. Last year alone, in 2015, went to 850 community events, going to elementary schools for Read-In Week, talking to young people about anti-bullying. How brutal is that, anti-bullying? You know, when I grew up, it didn't have the social media component. I can't even fathom what people are going through. But the players go in and also talk about the ending domestic violence. And a teacher can talk to young kids till they're blue in the face, and sometimes the kids roll their eyes. But when a player, your hero walks in, that 14 to 16-year-old young man that maybe didn't have the best role model like I didn't have when I grew up, trust me, it's no excuse because someone did it in your family when you grew up that you're going to continue the same behaviors. You're responsible for yourself. Maximize the opportunities. And Gordon, when I was in university, you know, we had textbooks, and chapter 26 of chapter 25 was about, you know, morals and corporate duty. Really, it was lip service. Now I'm so enthusiastic about, you know, I live it through my daughter. You guys really care more about the environment, global stuff, diversity. And last night, for example, we were doing focus groups research, and Paige was, by a coincidence, in one of those groups. And I'm so impressed with what you guys speak about in terms of what's important to you. You're helping us. Like, my generation was not that great. I'm not really proud. We did some great things, but what we do, example to the environment, was terrible. Now you're living with it. Please set the stage so that the next generation that follows you is going to be very proud of you and that you're showing the lead. Mm-hmm.
You talked about, you know, from 1987 to now being the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. So if you were putting yourself back in 1987 in Concordia, and some of the things that the experience you had at the university, maybe looking at some opportunities that our own students have, what would you have done differently, maybe, in terms of, you know, what you know, at a university you can risk, you can take. And you said live life to the fullest.
Yes.
So what are some of the things you might have done differently?
Yeah. I would have spent more time outside of the classroom trying to connect with the business world than just studying. I did my studies. Even then, though, I worked hard and played hard, but did great in the scholastics. But I could have done a better job connecting with the corporate world. And sometimes when we were given case studies, it was, oh, gee whiz, I got to go find a company that's willing to share information. But there's that, but there's even at functions, mingle, be involved, ask questions. There's so many different paths to where you are now to where you're going to end up. And there's so many different doors that will open, and some that you don't even see. There are doors at that wall right now that you physically cannot see, but they're there. You've got to create them through opportunities. And it's remarkable. And sometimes you got to have a game plan, but make your game plan flexible enough that you can go with whichever way the world takes you, because I never would have thought back in '87 that I'd be the president and CEO of the Edmonton Eskimos, but I left the opportunities open and try to define yourself. Now, don't box yourself in, because at this stage, you think you know everything about yourself. 10 years from now, you will realize you don't know everything about yourself, and even at 52, I don't know everything about myself. But that's what I would have done differently. interact with the business world.
Business world more, yeah.
Yeah.
And as a student, you can have that opportunity to, you know, like I know that students sometimes they don't know how to engage people from the
Right.
community.
Yeah.
So if people were to ask you to link in,
Yes.
knowing that
Yes.
you spoke to them in Business 201, would you accept their invitation?
Yeah, generally in LinkedIn, I like to have known that I met you once or that we have something that's in common. But definitely, I'm here today because I really believe in that connection. I remember when I was a student, so many companies didn't want to cooperate, but I'm an example. I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce now.
Right.
And when we have mixers, come. You know, just dress. You don't have to be in a suit. Just don't come in jeans. Look somewhat respectable, business casual, and just mingle. You will meet one person, because I can tell you when you're running a business, we have a lot of headaches and challenges in the world. We don't have all the answers. We may, at the right time, just be looking for someone that brings us some insight. And what you as young people bring is enthusiasm, drive. The world has no limits. The sky is not the limit. It's beyond the sky. Because you don't know of all the reasons why things cannot be done, you don't believe that things cannot be done, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So that balance between that and experience is a wonderful blend, but over time you become different and you need people that bring different elements. So we hire interns sometimes to come in. Social media is one where, what the heck do I know about social media, right? I'm looking to my daughter to show me, and now she lives in Montreal. So we've got young people in the club that lead. I can talk strategy, but I'm just trying to keep up to what's going on there.
So do you have a social media presence? Do you use Twitter or anything?
Yeah,
like that as a team and individually? Or?
Yeah, 4 years ago it was non-existent. We had a website, and we'll wait for people to come to our website. We're very active now. I think it's close to 100,000 followers on Facebook and Twitter. We came from nowhere, but we got to do a better job. But we've realized is everyone's got to take some ownership in that. So internally, when players are going out, communications is feeding in it because we're very authentic. If we just tell people what we do, it's a wonderful thing, but we got to tell people. Last night, we asked the focus groups that Paige was in, how are we supposed to reach you, though? So if you're not already liking us, and we used to buy a full-page ad in a newspaper and we could reach 50% of the population. The Bay, their strategy was we'll buy a full-page ad in every newspaper in Canada and we'll reach 50 to 70% of the people because everyone picked up. Now it's fragmented. So until we get that communication and that relationship with you once, from our standpoint is we're looking at ways to reach out to you to have that connection because we don't know where to start. So we're talking to actually the libraries here through a campaign through a third-party company called Wildcards to try to get into the libraries to talk about what we're doing because we want to reach you. Yeah. And once we get you involved with us, then we can send you communication. But it's that first step. Yeah. Very difficult.
So how do you find it a challenge to reach some of the millennial students and get them on board and engaged? Yeah.
Yes, because we have a wonderful history of a club that exists since '49. And we have people that have had season seats for 30 years, and that's fabulous. That's the bread and butter. But we want this group to come in, and we've got to make sure that the share of voice is not just the people that are currently buying tickets. The share of voice has to be prorated disproportionately, so we have a larger voice from the people that maybe are at the dance with us right now. You're coming to a game or two a year, but you're not committing yet to full-time season seats. But we want you to come to the dance, and we want to have that first dance, to tell you the truth.
How do you cut through a lot of the noise today and meet the needs of when I was growing up, it was a lot easier. A lot. But how do you cut through the noise today and get your message through when you have so many different opportunities and online games and things like that?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and when you talk, Gordon, about the Knothole Gang, it still exists today, and the kid can get a season seat for $100 if their parent buys one. The difference, though, is mom and dad used to leave Gordon and his kids in the section by themselves, and we didn't have this world where you didn't have to worry about your children. Now, the dynamics have changed, and that's the reality, and that's the world we live in today. But how we reach is we got to use different methods for different people. We were asking people last night, what radio stations do you listen to? One thing is well, you're not reading newspapers, you're listening to radio, but there was a range of CBC to K97 and the whole range in between. And then it depends what we want to do. If we want to talk to parents, we'll go to CHED. But if we want to talk to younger people, we got to go to other different stations. Social media drives certain segments. So it's various ways to connect. And it's, here today I have 60 in the audience. Hopefully you tell 2 friends who told 2 friends. And at the end of the day, if you understand a little more about the Eskimos, we're your neighbors in the community. And you're our neighbors, and it's about that connection. I like to think that we still, in pro sports, the Canadian Football League, and a community-owned team like the Eskimos, we still get it. We're part of the community, and we're one of you. You are us, and we are you, and we're synonymous.
What type of learning curves did you face in starting? Like you talked about 2011, you
Yes.
come from a product background to an entertainment offering. So what were the learning curves?
Yeah, learning is, first
Challenges.
of all, especially a guy from Montreal, some of the pundits would say, what does he know coming into Edmonton, running one of our most cherished properties with the pride and the tradition. So for me, it was getting to know about the community. So in year 1, get out there, which I did. And then it's understanding how things are at play. And before coming in with my first strategic plan, taking half a year to actually understand what's driving it. The old SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, what's the drivers, and then bundling all that with key insights and trying to have strategies that guide the organization so everyone's working from the same playbook. Just like a football team. Everyone has their roles and positions. Ed Hervey, our GM, has a great phrase. He says, stay in your lane. In other words, if something doesn't concern you, don't worry about it because you've got a role to play. However, it does not mean to say that you don't do it within a team atmosphere. Pro sports, again, it's a great analogy. You got to work together. But it's learning, bringing something to the table, but always listening and being open-minded and hearing and adjusting your strategy because the world is changing at such a fast pace. Our 5-year plan has to get revised every year, so it's become a rolling 5-year plan. So we have an annual plan and we have a rolling 5-year plan. And sometimes it's day and night on certain components. What changes just 12 months later.
So when you talk about that, the communication important in terms of getting your team to be reading the same signals and the same playbook, if you want to go that way. How do you find, you talked about listening and asking questions, I guess, is part of the whole, the challenge of management.
Yes, and abiding by some key values. It can't be words on the wall, although I do have our values on the wall in my office. And when you walk in the stadium so our staff can see it. But integrity is one, for example, that's really important to me. So I tell my staff, we have the right when we're in a meeting to debate with one another with respect, and it's pretty passionate at times. But once we leave, the meeting won't take place outside of the meeting. If you have something to say it inside. But once we decide something, we've all got to march to the same tune. Right. The worst thing for organizations, everyone paying lip services, nodding, agreeing, looking like they're just supporting it, and then they get out and then they're at the coffee room and a whole host of different things are being said. You got to be united, you got to be aligned. It doesn't mean to say you become yes people. It means you come to the table with full respect, give it your best, and when you have a weakness or you need to acknowledge something that needs to be fixed, don't hide it. Deal with it and talk to people and say, I need help, I need support.
Right. You talked about some of the things in the media, and because you're in the public eye, and you see the criticism, maybe there's certain things. There's the Monday morning quarterbacks in the media that probably talk to you. How does that affect you, and how do you do you let it roll off you, or how do you engage, or how know that you're doing your best job, but does that bother you?
It's a great question. I think any human being is going to be impacted by what happens. You could have people on social media talking, but you guys get it. You're going to, anytime, in politics, same thing. You could take our prime minister, he says something, half the population will say, I love it, I stand by it, the other half will say, I don't like it. That's okay when it's done with respect. The problem with social media is the way that people are expressing themselves has taken it down a level in terms of, it's pretty nasty. And so my job as the head of the organization is to never get too high and never get too low. Because when we win a Grey Cup, you're ready to give us more credit than we deserve. But when we're 4-14, you want to run us out of town. So I've got to keep everyone level-headed because I've got people in my organization that could really be impacted by what they read. So we've got to keep it steady.
Right.
And that's what I hope to bring to the table. But any human being, there's some things you can read that could be really hurtful.
Could be 99% positive and the 1% negative, and you'll take a look at the negative.
That's right.
Concert,
However, if it's done with respect, I have no problem with people disagreeing. But if you explain to people most of the time, this is why we're doing it, because we have a strategic plan, and these actions have to be consistent, people will get it.
You mentioned a word back a bit to passion.
Yes.
And you get people that have opinions and passion. What keeps you passionate about your job is one of the questions that our students have asked.
I have to love my job to do it. So, and I've loved my job from day one. So, love working with the Eskimos, but I loved Reebok-CCM hockey, and I loved working at Molson Breweries, Molson Coors now, and I have passion for everything I do. I've got to believe, because if I don't believe, how can I convince you to believe, and how can I get my staff motivated?
Right.
So if I don't like what I do, I believe there's enough choice out there. Do yourself a favor, please. Don't do a job that you hate. And you've listened, maybe someone in your own family, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's your neighbor that has said, oh God, I can't stand my job. And hey, there's some mornings that honestly, I say, oh gee whiz, I'm not looking forward to this. That's normal. But if those are more times than not, that should be one time a month. But if it's every day, do something you like, because if you like it, you will be passionate and you will do a better job. Whatever it is, and study what you like. Don't study something because your dad or your mom told you to study something. But please, study what is relevant to get you a job in the future, because you're doing yourself a favor. But there's enough choice to do what you like. And I can't tell you what to do. You know that, and that will change over time. I love what I do, and I am so blessed that I've had that opportunity.
Yeah. So the next year, we'll kind of ended with that. So I guess things are starting to kind of kick in again, and we're going to, April now. Snow's off the fields.
That's right.
And that. So what's happening now?
We're doing so much in the off season. A common question I get is, so what do you do in the off season? Well, if I'm the quarterback, maybe I'm doing less in the off season. But as the head of the organization, because revenue is so important, we're focused on selling seats because it's our number one revenue component. Unlike other pro sports, ticket sales for us is 40% of our revenue. Corporate partnerships, community involvement, and learning, like focus grouping and other forms of research, so that we're putting our programs together. We're going to unveil them publicly in May. And again, we don't go to focus groups just because we like the sandwiches behind the two-way mirror. It's because we want to listen and learn from it, and not to be as naive to think that we have all the answers for everything.
Right.
You are providing the answers whether you know it or don't.
Great. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you again for coming and speaking to us and sharing a little bit of the Eskimo success story, and hopefully we'll see another winning season and another Grey Cup.
Hopefully for sure.